Let's bring in now Carla Delaney, who is a UK journalist. Carla, thank you for making time for us. Let me first ask, just as a Briton yourself, how do you feel watching what we saw in Westminster Abbey this afternoon?
Well, it was a very moving ceremony, and I feel very proud of how they have arranged it and brought in all denominations into the ceremony, which is an ancient ceremony, but they've modernised it, and I think that was very well done. And I also particularly liked Penny Mordaunt, politician, former naval officer, who carried the sword, the First Lady to do so. So they have been very inclusive. I think that was excellent.
It was a big moment, not only for King Charles, but for Camilla as well. She was coronated, side by side with the king. Help us understand the decision that was taken for, Camilla to now be queen and no longer queen consort. Was it as per Queen Elizabeth's request that Camilla become queen?
I gather that Queen Elizabeth, late Queen, had given everything her blessing. I think Camilla has earned the right. She has stayed in the background for many years. I actually was at Windsor the day the couple married, and the crowds there were evident that the people in the UK had accepted it, and she's done a good job ever since. She's just been embracing the royal duties.
So many people around the world watching this coronation, they're looking at, not only, this honoring of the centuries of this royal tradition, but they're also watching, some of the things that are happening on the sidelines. For instance, Prince Harry, who has now flown from the US to watch his father's big day. He didn't come with his wife, Meghan. I imagine that's one thing that Britons and many other people who have been watching this coronation have been closely looking at with interest.
I think they have, and I'm sure King Charles is sad that things have developed the way they have, especially as in the early days, particularly when Harry met Meghan, and I went to an event where they were, and the people really enjoyed fresh outlook on royalty. But things haven't panned out, and within families there are broken families, who face divorce and unhappiness, and unfortunately the royal family are doing it in a very public way. But I think they handled today well. Harry was there, and he hasn't played a lead part, but I'm glad he was there.
Yeah. Ordinarily, what kind of responsibility would he have had? I saw that he was sitting on, was it the third or the fourth row in Westminster Abbey? And on a normal day, had there not been the tensions we've witnessed in the royal family, what kind of responsibility or role would he have played during this ceremony?
Well, I'm sure he would have played a more leading role, and he might well have been in uniform, as I'm sure he would have wanted to be. And I think they've played it as well as they possibly could. William, Prince William, he took a part in the ceremony, a key role. Just after the crowning, and I get the feeling that if Harry had been, things had been different, probably Harry would have played a part at that moment as well. But I'm not privy to that, but I just did feel for King Charles that he would have liked both his sons to be there. I also felt, I could see at the end of the ceremony that King Charles looked heartily relieved. He looked very strained and tired, I felt, right at the beginning, and it's a massive event for him, and he's been king in the making for so many years, and it could be quite overwhelming, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, 70 years is how long he waited for this particular
Yes.
job. Let's talk about some of the high-profile people that came to witness this moment. We saw the First Lady, Jill Biden, who entered Westminster Abbey earlier to represent the U.S., President Joe Biden. I think the wife of the First Lady of Ukraine is also there. What other high-profile dignitaries came to celebrate with the king during this coronation service?
Well, I haven't got a full list of them, but there were a lot, and there were also some celebrities in the audience as well, as people that you wouldn't know, but have done good works within the communities that they represent. And what I also liked is all faith communities there. So, it was a complete mix of people, which I think is what King Charles wants his reign to represent. He wants it to be for everyone, not just the top dignitaries. But it was good that so many people came today, and the public were waiting in the rain. I felt very sorry for them, but I do think that they have been, they've now seen the full ceremony, and that will be a day that they'll never forget.
And what do they think in Britain there the rain represents?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
I was asking Britons, when they see the rain on such an important day like this,
yes,
what do they think it represents? I mean, in South Africa and many other parts, there's a belief that, that's a sign of a blessing.
I believe it is. I think, for many years, there have been detractors, people who will say, oh, it's coming to an end, but it's not. I mean, if you only have to see the thousands that support it to know that there's still a strong support for the monarchy, and, it's something that I think majority of the British people want. And of course there's going to be some people that don't want it, but the majority, I do believe, want it.
And do you think the majority wanted the monarchy as it currently stands, or do they want the monarchy that King Charles has promised? One that is more progressive, one that embraces diversity?
I think exactly what you just said. King Charles, I think, wants to make a change. He can only do it in small bits, but he's already shown a willingness to do exactly that. The ceremony itself was shorter. It was more diverse with so many different representatives of different faiths there, which would never have happened 70 years ago. The ceremony was entirely different. So I think he is already making a change, and he's already shown through the works he does with young people and a belief that the planet needs to be looked after. I think he is embracing everything that he's been working for over the years.
And speaking of a shorter ceremony, what do you think were some of the key differences between this coronation of King Charles III and the coronation of his mother, the longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II? You've spoken about the ceremony being shorter, probably yes, about 6. Yeah. How different was this from Queen Elizabeth ceremony? Because in terms of the guest list as well, we saw 2,000 compared to what? Over 8,000 guests that packed Westminster Abbey to witness the late Queen's coronation?
Yes, I mean, I think that King Charles has been very aware that like every country, we're facing, high inflation and issues generally since COVID, and that he didn't want it to be as big as the one that his mother had had. But bear in mind that also his mother, 70 years ago, it was just after the war, and I think that that they wanted to show that there could be happy things to celebrate after, a very difficult time in the Second World War. So now, at the moment, we're all facing difficulties in one way or another, and there have been, bad things in the headlines. But this is a day to celebrate, and King Charles, I think, has been instrumental in seeing to it that it wasn't over lavish and pared down as much as it could possibly be.
We're watching visuals on our screens now of that Jubilee State Coach, Diamond Jubilee State Coach, which has now arrived at Buckingham Palace, was making its way from Westminster Abbey. Just explain to our viewers what's expected to take place once they get out of this coach, and they, because what we understand is that they will appear on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to watch a fly past. How important is that?
I think it's very important that the King and Queen are seen for the first time since the ceremony in public on the balcony where only just over a year ago his mother would have stood, and I'm sure it's going to be quite poignant for him that his mother is no longer there. It's a mixed feeling I'm sure he's having, because it's taken the death of his mother for him to become king, and so now he is embracing all the ceremonial that she did, and certainly the fly past is going to be a very big one. And I mean, at the moment he's I think it's 4,000 military there. I mean, that is a very, very big event. So all in all, I think it's as colourful and interesting and ceremonial as it possibly could be, and will be extremely memorable for many years to come.
Yeah, and here's that moment you speak of that you say is significant, that 4,000 military now at Buckingham Palace ahead of King Charles and Queen Camilla appearing on the west terrace of Buckingham Palace garden to receive the royal salute. So let's watch.
His Majesty's Armed Forces! Royal salute! Present! Arms! The parade will remove headdress. Remove headdress. Turn. 3 cheers for His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen. Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! The parade will replace headdress. Replace headdress. Carla. Move. Quick. Move.
Carla, that moment we were talking about earlier on and its significance just happened now. So the royal salute is now done. Are we now going to see the royal family members appear on the balcony to watch that fly past? Is that what's next?
I gather that's what's going to happen. The next big thing is the fly past at 14:30 our time. So I think clearly the ceremonial wanted to acknowledge all of the soldiers, armed forces that were there today supporting the king.
And how significant was this moment of them appearing on the West Terrace? You said earlier we're looking at about 4,000 military, and this is obviously the first time that the public are seeing them since that service at Westminster Abbey.
And I can't remember any other occasion when there have been so many in evidence. Obviously, last year I went to London for the Her Majesty's funeral, and there were a lot of soldiers there marched past, but not as much as this.
Yeah, and speaking
So
of,
this is a very significant moment.
yes, and the role of soldiers, speaking of that's something that of course King Charles also has experience in.
Exactly. I mean, they pay their allegiance to the king, and they are supporting him today, and he is honouring them by being the first to see him, having been crowned. So I think that is a very significant moment.
All right, Carla Delaney, UK journalist, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.